Beneath the soft hush of the ocean and the gentle crackle of imagined firelight beside you, let your curiosity drift toward a simple question. What did calm truly feel like aboard the Titanic in its quiet final days before night arrived? As you settle in, you may notice your eyes growing heavier, your breathing slowing, and a sense of stillness wrapping around you like a warm blanket. Tonight, we'll let the gentle rhythm of history guide you toward rest. Before we begin, know that you're safe here, and this story moves at a peaceful pace. Before we go further, may I ask from which country you're listening, and what time it is over there? Whether it's late at night or still early evening, I'm grateful you're here. And before we continue, if you enjoy calm historical journeys like this, feel free to tap the like button, subscribe, and share a gentle comment. It truly helps this peaceful corner of the internet grow. As the story opens, imagine the Titanic not as a legend of disaster, but simply as a floating town just beginning to understand its own rhythm. In these final days before the night fell, the ship had already settled into a steady routine. People walked its corridors with quiet familiarity, and the wooden floors carried the faint, predictable vibration of the engines below. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt out of place. The morning light filtered through the large windows, soft and pale, touching the metal railings with a muted glow. Passengers stepped into the new day with slow breaths, some still adjusting from long travels before boarding. The ship, vast and carefully engineered, moved with the confidence of something built to cross oceans, yet its mood remained calm, almost drowsy in its steadiness. If at any point your mind wanders or your body feels heavier, that's perfectly fine. This is your time to rest, and the story will continue gently beside you. On the main deck, the sea stretched endlessly in every direction, a wide expanse of blue-gray water that almost melted into the sky. The air was cool but pleasant, carried by a light wind that brushed past the faces of anyone who stepped outside. For many passengers, these quiet moments became their favorite part of the day, a chance to breathe deeply and let the vastness of the ocean remind them of how small worries could feel. Inside the ship, the hallways echoed softly with footsteps, never too loud, never too sudden. Stewards walked calmly along the carpets, offering directions, carrying messages, or simply greeting passengers with polite nods. Even in the busier areas, there was a certain hush in the atmosphere, as if the ship itself understood the importance of maintaining calm. Every now and then, allow yourself to feel your shoulders soften and your breathing deepen. Let the rhythm of the story guide your thoughts toward gentler places. Far below the passenger decks, the engines worked with continuous precision. Their steady hum was a constant presence, felt more than heard. Crew members in these lower sections moved with practiced coordination, checking gauges, adjusting valves, and ensuring every part of the ship remained in harmony. Though these spaces were warm and busy, the workers themselves adapted to the rhythm easily, almost becoming part of the machinery's steady pulse. In the lounges, sunlight reflected off polished surfaces, tables, brass railings, and decorative fixtures, creating soft glimmers that moved with the ship's subtle motions. People gathered here for simple moments, reading, writing letters, or sharing quiet conversations. The atmosphere carried the same kind of gentle stillness you might feel when listening to the soft crackling of a fire. As a small reminder, if your attention drifts or you feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation, let it happen naturally. You're not required to focus sharply. The story will keep flowing at a calm, steady pace. In the quieter corners of the ship, such as the writing rooms and enclosed promenades, the silence felt almost comforting. These spaces became havens for those who preferred solitude. The gentle movement of the ship beneath their feet created a subtle swaying sensation that many passengers described as soothing, something that helped them think more clearly or rest more easily. Meanwhile, on the outer decks, the breeze carried the faint scent of cold seawater. Some passengers walked slowly along the railings, enjoying the open air and the feeling of being surrounded by a vast horizon. Others simply stood still, gazing at the waves in a thoughtful, almost meditative silence. The ship itself seemed to breathe, expanding and settling with each rise and fall of the ocean. Even in the busiest places, there was a sense of balance, a quiet understanding between the people on board and the vessel carrying them. Nothing dramatic stirred. Nothing warned of anything unusual. This was a journey defined by smooth routines and gentle transitions from one hour to the next. As you listen, notice how your thoughts drift the way the ship drifted over the water. Slow, steady, without urgency. In the dining areas, preparations for meals created a soft undercurrent of movement. Stewards arranged settings with care, while faint aromas of warm dishes spread through the air. Conversations here tended to be calm, shaped by the comfort of predictable routines. People spoke about their hometowns, their travel plans, or the beauty of the northern sea. Each voice contributed to the quiet tapestry of daily life aboard the Titanic. Even in these moments of mild activity, there was no rush. The ship encouraged a slower pace, inviting passengers to savor the calmness that ocean travel often brings. Outside the windows, the sunlight shifted gradually, reminding everyone of time passing in the most gentle way. If you feel yourself slipping into a softer state of mind, let it happen. This story is meant to hold you lightly, just as the ship held its passengers in these final calm days before night arrived. As afternoon light softened across the decks, the Titanic seemed to settle even deeper into its daily rhythm. Passengers found their favorite corners of the ship, some near windows, some in quiet hallways, and others outside where the wind carried a refreshing chill. There was a certain contentment in the air, a sense that the journey was unfolding exactly as it should. The ship moved forward with the calm certainty of something built with care, guided by skilled hands. Down below, where the engines pulsed with steady energy, the crew maintained their tasks with attentiveness shaped by routine. They checked measurements, monitored temperatures, and ensured each component operated properly. These men rarely saw the horizon or felt the cold air above, yet their work supported the peace that everyone else enjoyed. Their world was one of warmth, vibration, and constant awareness, a hidden foundation beneath the ship's gentle surface. If your breathing has slowed or your eyes feel heavier, allow yourself to drift at your own pace. This story will continue to move gently, just like the ship itself. The sun began its gradual descent, casting long golden lines across the open decks. Some passengers paused to admire the scenery, noticing how the sea reflected light like brushed metal. The calmness of the water made everything feel almost still, though the ship continued its steady progress westward. From railings and benches, people looked out at the horizon in quiet fascination, unaware that these were among the last peaceful hours before night transformed the ocean. Inside the ship, the atmosphere shifted slightly as evening approached. Lamps glowed softly in the hallways, creating warm pools of light that softened shadows and made the spaces feel inviting. Stewards prepared for the next round of routines, straightening chairs, adjusting linens, and ensuring everything felt comfortable for the night. It was a time of transition, but one carried out with the same calmness that defined the rest of the day. Every couple of minutes, take a moment to notice how your body feels. If there's any tension left, let the softness of this story gently loosen it. In the lounges, small groups gathered for quiet conversations or peaceful activities. Some played simple games, others read newspapers, and a few simply sat back with their eyes half closed, enjoying the motion of the ship beneath them. The gentle vibration was almost like a natural lullaby, steady enough to relax even the most restless traveler. Meanwhile, families in the lower decks settled into their routines. Parents guided children to finish their evening meals, arranged simple belongings, and prepared for rest. These areas were less polished but equally filled with a sense of calm purpose. Everyone aboard, whether in the upper or lower decks, felt the same reassuring steadiness in the ship's movements. If your mind begins to drift like the waves outside, that's completely okay. This is the kind of story that doesn't demand focus, it simply keeps you company. As darkness slowly approached, the temperature dipped. A chill settled over the outer decks, encouraging some passengers to wrap their coats more tightly while others stepped inside to seek warmth. The evening air carried the distinct feeling of northern waters, crisp and quiet. The ship, illuminated by its lamps, cut through the darkening sea with graceful confidence. In the writing rooms and salons, the mood grew quieter. Some people penned letters describing their voyage so far, noting the calm weather and the comfort of the ship. Others leaned back in cushioned chairs, watching the slow movement of shadows as lamps flickered softly across the room. These peaceful moments added to the steady cadence of life on board. As we move deeper into the evening, let this gentle rhythm help settle your thoughts, bringing your mind closer to rest with each passing moment. Far below, the machinery maintained its steady heartbeat. The crew's movements remained precise, shaped by training and necessity. They exchanged brief nods or simple words, keeping communication efficient and calm. Their world was illuminated by warm industrial lights, casting long silhouettes across metal surfaces polished by countless shifts. Across the ship, the soundscape grew softer. Footsteps became fewer, conversations dropped to whispers, and the hum of the engines felt more pronounced as the night deepened. The Titanic, though enormous, carried a surprisingly tender atmosphere during these hours, like a massive vessel wrapped in a quiet blanket of routine. As you listen, imagine yourself aboard the ship, feeling the subtle sway beneath your feet, the cool air brushing past your skin, and the soft glow of lights guiding you through the corridors. There's no rush here, just stillness. By the time the last shades of daylight slipped away, passengers across the ship had fully embraced the calm of the evening. The decks grew nearly empty, the lounges quieted down, and the hallways softened into gentle shadows. Everything moved at a slower pace, as if preparing for rest. And just before the night fully settled, the Titanic drifted forward through the darkening waters with perfect calm. The people aboard, whether awake or already drifting towards sleep, felt only the peaceful hum of a ship moving steadily across the vast northern ocean, unaware that these were among the final quiet hours before the story of history took a dramatic turn. If you're feeling more relaxed now, let that comfort deepen. There's no need for a conclusion here. Just a gentle sense of drifting, the way the ship drifted across the calm sea, slow and quiet, wrapped in the softness of its final routine. The day unfolded over the northern Atlantic with a softness that felt almost unreal. The sea stretched outward in a nearly perfect calm, so still it seemed like a sheet of glass resting beneath the sky. Passengers stepping onto the deck were greeted by a gentle breeze that carried no urgency, just a cool whisper moving across open water. This quiet weather wrapped the ship in an atmosphere of confidence, as if nothing in the world could disturb its steady course westward. Officers on the bridge observed the calm sea with a level, composed attentiveness. The lack of waves eased navigation, allowing the ship to move forward without resistance. Every movement of the controls felt smooth, predictable, and clean. The horizon showed no signs of trouble, no choppy currents, no rolling swells, no shifting mist. Just the soft joining of sky and water in a wide, pale line. In these serene conditions, the ship's massive structure felt lighter somehow, gliding rather than pushing through the ocean. The vibrations beneath the floors were steady and gentle, giving passengers a sense of stability, as though the vessel had settled into a peaceful understanding with the sea. The calm water reflected faint streaks of sunlight, turning the surface into a muted mirror that responded to every slight shift in the ship's path. The atmosphere on board followed the tone of the weather, unhurried, steady, and quietly confident. People moved through hallways and decks as though time itself had slowed, easing them into a sense of comfort. Conversations took on a softer quality, shaped by the peacefulness surrounding them. Even those who normally felt uneasy at sea found themselves relaxing beneath the gentle rhythm of the voyage. Far above, the sky remained clear, with delicate wisps of clouds drifting in thin streaks. These clouds carried no threat of rain or wind. Instead, they added layers of calm texture to the afternoon light. The officers noted the clarity with silent satisfaction, knowing that such weather made every part of navigation simpler. Calm seas demanded respect but rarely caused concern. At times, the only sound breaking the stillness was the ship's soft whistle of wind passing along its hull. The absence of crashing waves or groaning timbers created an environment where subtle noises became more noticeable. The faint shifting of ropes, the distant hum of engines, and the gentle tapping of shoes on deck. This quietness made the ship feel almost like a floating sanctuary. Passengers leaning against the railings felt the coolness of the northern air brushing against their hands. The sea emitted a sharp, crisp scent unique to these waters. It sharpened the senses while also easing the mind, offering a natural calmness that modern travelers rarely experience. Many stood silently, simply appreciating the stillness spreading across the horizon. In these peaceful hours, the ship's crew moved with even more confidence than usual. Tasks felt easier, equipment functioned at ideal levels, charts were checked with steady assurance. The officers communicated in quiet, composed tones, fully aware that the calm weather granted them a moment of ease within their demanding routines. Every now and then, take a slow breath and imagine the quiet deck under your feet, the gentle sway, the crisp air, the endless view stretching outward like a soft whisper of the ocean. Let the feeling settle in your mind. Inside, sunlight filtered through windows and glass panels, casting soft shapes onto floors and furniture. These patterns shifted gradually with the ship's movement, creating a slow, drifting dance of light. People resting indoors found comfort in these natural rhythms, letting the calm weather shape their mood without even realizing it. Even children on board seemed influenced by the peaceful conditions. Their energy softened into quiet play, their laughter gentler than usual. Families enjoyed simple moments together, small conversations, shared glances toward the sea, and the comfort of knowing the day held no surprises. Calm weather, especially in northern waters, was always a welcome companion. The ship's internal temperature felt balanced during these hours. Not too cold, not too warm, just comfortably steady. Fresh air filtered into various rooms, giving everything a clean, refreshing quality. Those who preferred staying indoors found themselves relaxing into the seats, lulled by the evenness of the ship's motion. Toward the aft decks, passengers watched the wake trailing behind the ship, forming two smooth, white lines stretching far into the distance. The wake moved like a painted stroke on the still surface, fading gradually into the calm sea. It was a reminder of the ship's immense power, yet also its grace, strength delivered through quiet movement. If your thoughts begin to soften or wander, let them drift the way the wake drifted behind the Titanic, slow, gentle, and without hurry. This calm landscape invites rest, not attention. As the afternoon settled deeper, the calmness seemed to grow even more profound. The ocean carried no sound except the faint echo of the ship's engines far below. Everything felt balanced, as though the sea itself had paused to breathe. And through all of this, the Titanic continued her steady journey westward, wrapped in a blanket of quiet confidence, unaware that such calm weather often accompanied regions where hidden dangers waited far beneath the surface. As the calm weather continued, the officers noted each small detail without urgency. They marked observations in their logs, temperature, visibility, wind direction, simple notes that matched the stillness around them. These records served as routine checkpoints, confirming what everyone already felt. The Titanic was traveling through remarkably gentle conditions. Such serenity, while comforting, also required attentiveness. The northern seas were known for their unpredictability, and even the quietest days demanded respect. Elsewhere on the ship, the wireless operators received messages from other vessels describing ice in nearby regions. These notices were routine, not warnings of immediate danger, but they reminded the crew that nature always carried possibilities beyond human sight. The operators worked with focus, tapping out replies, exchanging updates, and maintaining their steady rhythm. Their small room pulsed with the faint tapping of telegraph signals, the heartbeat of long-distance communication across the open ocean. In the officers' chart room, navigational tools remained carefully arranged. Compasses, maps, rulers, and notes spread across polished surfaces. The calm water made every calculation easier, reducing the complexities normally faced during rough weather. The officers examined their route with quiet confidence, knowing the ship was maintaining speed without encountering resistance. The gentle conditions created an atmosphere where even the smallest tasks felt simple. Above the ship, the sky held its pale, clear color as the afternoon wore on. The sun, though soft in intensity, brightened the metal fixtures along the decks, making them glint like subtle strokes of gold. The clouds remained thin and harmless, drifting like delicate threads pulled across the sky. Passengers who enjoyed photography took advantage of the perfect lighting, capturing peaceful scenes without needing to steady their hands against wind or movement. Even as the calm weather encouraged comfort, There was an underlying sense of focus among the crew. They understood that northern seas, especially waters known for drifting ice, could shift character at any moment. Calmness was a gift, but also a reminder to prepare for whatever might follow. Their training kept them steady, moving through routines with practiced awareness. If your breathing has begun to deepen or your thoughts feel slower, let yourself follow that gentle rhythm. Calm stories and calm seas have a way of aligning the mind with stillness. Throughout the ship, small groups of passengers gathered on the open decks to enjoy the lingering daylight. Some leaned on the railings with blankets draped over their arms, appreciating the cool breeze. Others remained seated, watching the subtle lines of the horizon shift as the ship advanced. The sea reflected hints of color, changing from pale blue to muted silver as the sun moved across the sky. In quieter corners, those seeking solitude found peaceful spaces away from the activity. Benches near enclosed promenades offered shelter from the chill while still allowing a clear view of the ocean. People sat in silence, their minds wandering, their eyes following the slow rise and fall of the ship's bow. The stillness outside encouraged reflection, creating a mood that felt both peaceful and thoughtful. In the crew quarters, laughter and conversations carried softly through the hallways. Off-duty workers used the calm hours to rest or share quiet moments together. The gentle vibrations of the ship passed through the floors, reminding them of the machinery working tirelessly beneath their feet. Even here, far from the open decks, the calm weather created a sense of ease. Every now and then, allow your imagination to float across the surface of that calm ocean, wide, still, and stretching into the distance, inviting your mind to slow with it. The ship's massive size felt surprisingly graceful under such conditions. Instead of pushing through rough waves, it seemed to glide, its hull cutting smoothly through the quiet sea. Anyone standing on deck could sense the difference. The movement felt almost like a slow, continuous breath. This peaceful glide eased tension from passengers who were not accustomed to ocean travel. Inside the ship, the evening preparations began with gentle transitions. Lamps brightened softly, curtains were adjusted, and stewards moved with practiced calmness. No hurry, no noise, just the routine shift from daylight to evening. The calm weather made every part of the ship feel like it was operating in perfect harmony. As the sun drifted lower, the colors of the sky changed again, deepening into warmer tones. The light spread across the sea in soft gradients, creating a peaceful canvas that seemed to stretch forever. The passengers who remained outside observed the beauty quietly, each lost in their own thoughts or simple appreciation. The calmness carried a subtle weight, the kind that makes each moment feel longer and more reflective. People sensed the comfort of the conditions without fully realizing how unusual such stillness could be in these waters. The scene held a timeless quality, soft light, quiet sea, steady motion, all blending into a single peaceful experience. And as the final stages of daylight approached, the Titanic continued forward through the serene northern waters, guided by a crew who balanced calm confidence with the awareness that nature always holds its mysteries. For now, the ship floated within one of its most peaceful days, embraced by quiet weather that seemed designed to soothe every person aboard. Life aboard the ship unfolded gently during these peaceful days, allowing passengers to settle into simple routines that eased their minds. The calm sea and steady movement of the Titanic created a sense of quiet comfort, encouraging people to slow down and enjoy small, ordinary moments. Whether they walked along the decks or rested in one of the ship's many lounges, the atmosphere felt unhurried, shaped by the soft rhythm of the voyage and the soothing hum of the engines far below. Many passengers found joy in strolling along the wooden promenade, feeling the cool northern breeze brush against their faces. The open air carried a refreshing calmness, and the wide horizon offered a view that encouraged quiet reflection. As they moved across the deck, the gentle sway of the ship added a natural rhythm to each step, creating a calming sensation that helped them forget the long journeys they had taken before boarding. Some passengers preferred to rest in the indoor lounges, settling into comfortable seats while sunlight filtered through the large windows. These spaces held a warm, relaxed atmosphere, perfect for reading, letter writing, or simply observing the quiet patterns of life around them. The soft murmur of conversations mingled with the distant hum of machinery, producing a peaceful background that soothed the senses like slow-burning firelight. Children, too, found moments of happiness in this calm environment. Their excitement softened into quieter play, shaped by the gentle energy of the ship. They explored hallways, peeked over railings, and shared stories with newfound friends. Parents appreciated these peaceful hours, watching their children enjoy the journey while knowing the ship moved steadily and safely across the sea. As the day moved forward, some passengers gathered near the railings, watching the ocean stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The water's surface shimmered under the afternoon light, creating patterns that shifted with every small movement of the ship. These simple scenes brought a sense of calm to those who watched, reminding them of how vast and soothing the ocean could be during quiet weather. Others spent time exploring the ship's many public spaces, discovering quiet corners where they could rest. Some found comfort near the writing rooms, where the soft sound of pens on paper blended with gentle footsteps. These small pockets of stillness allowed travelers to unwind, letting their thoughts drift as freely as the waves outside. Every couple of minutes, allow yourself to slow your breathing and imagine these gentle scenes, the soft light, the quiet decks, and the murmured conversations shaped by calmness. Let the rhythm of the ship guide your imagination. Passengers traveling alone often found solace in quiet observation. Some sat with books open on their laps, though they spent more time gazing out toward the sea than reading. The motion of the water seemed to draw their thoughts outward, giving them space to think, rest, or simply be present in the moment without expectation. In third-class areas, life carried a different but equally peaceful rhythm. Families gathered around small tables, sharing simple meals and calm conversations. People from various backgrounds exchanged stories about where they came from and where they hoped to go. Despite their modest accommodations, many felt grateful for the warmth and stability the ship provided, especially compared to the long travels many had endured before boarding. Soft laughter often drifted through these spaces, blending with the gentle sounds of the ship's engines. For many, this was one of the first moments of true rest they had experienced in a long time. The stability of the Titanic, guided by the power granted through human craftsmanship and the will of the Creator who allowed such ingenuity, offered them a rare sense of ease as they crossed the endless sea. In the upper decks, more affluent passengers enjoyed peaceful routines of their own. Some played quiet games, others sipped warm drinks, and many simply sat together sharing gentle conversations about the weather, the ocean, or their plans ahead. The calmness of the environment softened every interaction, giving even simple discussions a soothing, unhurried tone. Throughout the ship, the shared experience of calm weather shaped the mood of everyone aboard. People who had never met before found themselves exchanging polite smiles or short, friendly words. The calm sea seemed to encourage a sense of connection, reminding everyone that they were all part of the same quiet journey across the water. As the afternoon light shifted, the ship's passengers continued their peaceful routines. Some returned to the decks, others lingered in indoor spaces, and a few slipped away to their cabins for brief rest. The ship felt like a living community, moving together beneath the wide northern sky, bound by the gentle rhythm of the ocean. If your thoughts begin to drift the way the passengers drifted through their quiet routines, let them move gently. This story is here to keep you company, not to demand your full attention. Let the calm settle. Passengers who enjoyed reading often carried their books to the quieter parts of the ship, where the natural light created the perfect environment for slow, thoughtful pages. The soft creaking of the ship and the distant hum of the engines created a steady background, a natural soundtrack that helped them sink into their stories. And all across the Titanic, simple moments like these formed the core of daily life, peaceful, unhurried, and shaped by the gentle confidence that came with calm weather and steady travel. As the afternoon deepened, more passengers gathered along the sheltered sections of the promenade, seeking both fresh air and quiet company. These shaded areas offered protection from the chill while still providing a perfect view of the sea. People leaned against the smooth railings, their eyes following the slow roll of the waves, allowing their thoughts to wander freely. The ship's movement was gentle enough that many felt as if they were gliding above the water rather than cutting through it. In the lounges, cards and board games became a soothing part of the day. Small groups gathered at tables, speaking in soft voices so as not to disturb the peaceful atmosphere. Laughter surfaced occasionally, but even that held a gentle tone, shaped by the calmness that filled the ship. The warm lighting in these rooms created a comforting environment, making it easy for passengers to lose track of time. Everything felt slower, quieter, almost like a shared dream. Every now and then, imagine the soft rustle of players shuffling cards, the low murmur of conversation, and the distant hum beneath the floor. Let these small details settle your mind the way they settled the passengers' moods. Elsewhere, some travelers chose quiet observation as their favorite activity. They sat near windows or along narrow hallways, watching the light shift across polished wood and brass fixtures. The ship's interior held a refined elegance, but what mattered most to passengers was the feeling of stillness it offered. Even the subtle scent of varnished wood and seawater added to the peacefulness, grounding them in the gentle rhythm of the voyage. In the smoking rooms, used here not as promotion, but as part of historical description, conversations tended to be calm and steady. Passengers discussed travel, family, or the remarkable size of the ship. The actions and choices of individuals in that era reflected their time, and this narration simply describes the historical setting without encouraging habits that may be harmful. Meanwhile, in third-class areas, people found comfort in simple interactions. Children continued their quiet play, families shared stories, and individuals rested after days or weeks of travel that had led them to this point. The calmness of the ship gave them a chance to reset, to breathe deeply, and to enjoy a rare moment of stability. Even the simple act of sitting together felt meaningful against the backdrop of the endless sea. Soft reminders of the ship's presence were always there, the gentle thrum of machinery, the subtle sway, the distant echoes of footsteps above. These sounds formed a calm soundscape that soothed passengers into deeper states of relaxation. Many leaned back in their seats, closing their eyes, letting these steady noises lull them into brief moments of rest. As the light outside shifted to a softer, golden tone, passengers felt drawn toward the open decks again. The cooler air carried a sense of clarity, as though the world had quieted even further. Some walked slowly along the rails, others stood still, and a few simply listened, to the ocean, to the wind, or to their own thoughts. If your breathing softens while imagining this scene, let that calmness continue. The rhythm of the ship, the quiet routines of its passengers, all encourage the same slow drift toward stillness. In the dining areas, preparations for the evening meal began with soft transitions. Tables were arranged, warm lights flickered gently overhead, and passengers arrived in no hurry. Conversations were calm, shaped by the peacefulness of the day. Even the clinking of utensils felt gentle, blending seamlessly with the overall quiet of the ship. Those who preferred solitude finished their letters, watched the sky through windows, or found their way to quiet benches where the buzz of conversation couldn't reach them. The ship had countless little corners like these, places where a person could settle into the moment and let the sea do the thinking. By the time the last traces of afternoon light began to fade, the ship felt wrapped in a deeper stillness. The simple moments that filled the day slowly transitioned into quieter evening routines. Passengers, relaxed and unhurried, continued to enjoy the gentle pace that had shaped their entire journey so far. The Titanic moved steadily through the water, carrying these peaceful moments with it, each one a quiet memory formed beneath the vast northern sky. The day had been calm, ordinary, and beautifully simple, just like the passengers who filled it with quiet routines and soft reflections. While passengers enjoyed the calm routines of the journey, a different kind of rhythm unfolded quietly beneath their feet. The crew of the Titanic worked with practiced focus, moving through spaces that many travelers never saw. Their tasks required precision, awareness, and steady coordination. These hidden efforts formed the backbone of the voyage, creating the seamless experience that passengers enjoyed every day without ever thinking about the people behind it. Deep within the ship, firemen and trimmers tended the massive boilers. The heat was intense, and the air carried the scent of coal and steam. These workers moved with efficiency, shoveling fuel and ensuring the fires remained balanced. Their world was illuminated by warm industrial light, far removed from the calm breezes felt on the decks above. Yet their labor kept the engine steady, granting passengers the smooth, gentle movement they enjoyed throughout each quiet day. The engine rooms held a hum that could be felt through the floors of the ship, a steady vibration that shaped the atmosphere everywhere on board. Engineers monitored pressure gauges, adjusted machinery, and listened for small changes in the rhythm of the engines. Their attention to detail came from both training and a deep understanding of how the ship breathed and moved. Their work created the calmness passengers took for granted. Every couple of minutes, imagine that soft mechanical hum beneath your feet, the quiet power that supported every peaceful moment on the decks above. Let that subtle rhythm calm your thoughts. Elsewhere, stewards moved through hallways with quiet purpose. They straightened rooms, delivered items, and supported passengers with polite, steady service. Their steps were soft on the carpeted floors, and their voices remained low, preserving the tranquil mood of the ship. These men and women helped maintain the sense of comfort that travelers felt so easily, often going unnoticed but never unimportant. In the kitchens, cooks and assistants prepared meals with remarkable coordination. Large pots simmered, ovens warmed, and utensils moved in a controlled dance that kept pace with the needs of thousands of people. Even here, in spaces full of motion, the atmosphere carried a sense of order. The routines had become so familiar that each person moved almost instinctively, contributing to a system that functioned with quiet precision. Laundry workers processed piles of linens and clothing, ensuring everything remained clean and ready for use. The sound of fabric being folded, sorted, and prepared formed a soft backdrop in these lower rooms. Their role rarely received attention, yet it shaped the cleanliness and comfort felt throughout the ship. In the mailroom, clerks sorted letters and packages destined for destinations far beyond the ocean. They handled bags of correspondence with steady hands, organizing delivery schedules and keeping records updated. These letters held stories, hopes, and messages carried across continents. The workers treated them with care, understanding the importance they held for passengers and families waiting far away. The storage areas were organized with military-like precision. Crew members checked inventories, secured supplies, and ensured everything remained stable despite the ship's motion. Barrels, crates, and essential provisions were arranged methodically so that nothing shifted unexpectedly. These quiet efforts ensured the ship remained safe and well supplied as it crossed the vast northern sea. If your breathing has slowed while imagining these calm, methodical routines, let yourself ease into that rhythm. The ship's hidden world worked like a quiet heartbeat beneath every peaceful moment. In the corridors designated for crew use, conversations were short and purposeful. Workers exchanged quick updates, clarified tasks, or offered brief nods before moving on. These hallways carried a different energy than those used by passengers. Faster, more directed, but still controlled and respectful. The crew knew that their work protected the calm environment above. Marine officers conducted regular rounds, examining doors, checking equipment, and ensuring that safety protocols remained in place. Their presence offered stability, a reminder that even during the peaceful days of the voyage, vigilance remained essential. Their boots echoed softly through the polished corridors, marking the steady flow of responsibility that guided their shifts. In the cargo holds, workers ensured that luggage and goods were properly balanced and secured. They checked weight distribution and reinforced fastenings to maintain equilibrium. These tasks may have seemed simple, but they were vital to the ship's smooth movement through the water, preventing unnecessary strain on its enormous frame. Steerage attendants tended to passengers in the lower decks with care, assisting families and individuals who needed guidance. Their responsibilities ranged from simple directions to arranging bedding or helping with personal needs. Though their workload was heavy, many performed their duties with patience, contributing to the sense of quiet community within the ship. Throughout every deck and corridor, the crew's work stitched together the peaceful experience passengers enjoyed. Their combined efforts created a quiet harmony, a balance of tasks, movement, and routine that supported the calm atmosphere enjoyed above. And as the ship continued across the ocean, these hidden rhythms persisted beneath the calm weather and quiet decks, forming the unseen foundation of the Titanic's final days before night arrived. As the afternoon continued, the crew maintained their steady routines with practiced ease. Every section of the ship had its own rhythm, and the workers knew these patterns by heart. What appeared effortless to passengers was supported by countless small actions below: secure knots tied, valves adjusted, logs updated, rooms prepared. All of it blended into a quiet network of unseen effort that kept the ship's calm atmosphere intact. In the Marconi room, the wireless operators worked with focused attention, exchanging messages with ships scattered across distant waters. The soft tapping of their keys created a gentle pattern, a steady code carrying information across the darkening sea. Their task required technical skill and alertness, even when the rest of the ship felt peaceful. They were among the first to hear distant signals, messages that linked the Titanic to a world far beyond the horizon. Every few minutes, imagine that faint tapping of telegraph keys, subtle, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the ship's quiet walls. On the bridge, officers observed the sea with calm professionalism. Their eyes scanned the horizon and the instruments before them, noting details that most passengers never considered. The stillness of the water made their work easier, but not less important. They adjusted the ship's heading with smooth, controlled movements, making sure the vessel held its intended course as daylight began to fade. Electricians monitored the ship's power systems from their designated rooms, checking panels glowing with warm light. Their work ensured that every lamp, every corridor, and every essential function received dependable energy. They walked between machines with quiet confidence, listening closely for any sign that a system needed attention. Even the calmest day required careful oversight. In the pantry and service areas, stewards prepared for evening needs, polishing glass, arranging dishes, or delivering items where they were needed. These rooms hummed with gentle activity, coordinated but never rushed. The crew operated like an intricate system of moving parts, each person supporting another, creating a flow that passengers experienced as comfort and ease. Farther down, workers responsible for ventilation systems ensured that fresh air continued to circulate through the ship's enclosed spaces. They inspected ducts, checked fans, and made sure every room, from the grand salons to the modest quarters, remained comfortable. The air that passengers breathed, clean and balanced, depended on these unseen routines. If your thoughts drift as you picture these calm, precise movements, let them drift freely. The ship's quiet rhythm supports the story just as it supported everyone aboard. In the baggage rooms, attendants sorted through belongings with care. They organized trunks, checked labels, and made sure everything remained secure. The soft thud of shifting luggage echoed faintly through these low spaces, blending with the ever-present hum of machinery. Even these small, steady tasks contributed to the overall harmony of the ship. Communication runners moved quickly but quietly through the narrow crew corridors. They carried notes, updates, or instructions across departments, ensuring that everyone remained coordinated. Their footsteps were light, trained to stay efficient without disturbing the peaceful atmosphere above. In the refrigerated storage rooms, workers checked temperature levels and ensured that supplies remained in good condition. The air there was cold and crisp, a sharp contrast to the warm engine rooms. Their work helped maintain the quality of meals and provisions used throughout the ship. The ship's carpenters inspected wooden fittings, joints, and safety equipment. With practiced eyes, they confirmed that everything remained secure. Their presence helped maintain the physical integrity of various structures on board. These routine inspections, though invisible to most passengers, were essential for the ship's well-being. As evening approached, the pace of work remained steady, though less hurried than during busy hours. The crew continued moving through checklists and silent communications, each department supporting the others like threads woven into a single fabric. Calm weather made their task smoother, but their discipline ensured consistency regardless of conditions. Throughout all of this, the ship's hidden world remained alive with purposeful motion. These quiet efforts were the foundation of every peaceful moment experienced on the decks above. The calm sea may have defined the day, but the steady work of the crew shaped the heart of the voyage. And as the Titanic continued on its westward path, these routines flowed through every level, unseen, steady, and essential, forming the quiet backbone of its final, tranquil days before night began to change the story. As the Titanic continued across the calm northern waters, small hints of the surrounding environment began to drift toward the crew in quiet, unobtrusive ways. These signs weren't dramatic or alarming, but more like gentle reminders that the ocean carried its own story beneath the still surface. Messages from nearby ships began to arrive throughout the day, noting patches of ice scattered in the region ahead. They were ordinary updates, common on this route, yet they created a subtle awareness among the officers that nature always held possibilities unseen from the deck. In the Marconi room, the wireless operators received these notices with steady focus. They logged each one, the tapping of their keys forming a soft pattern behind the walls. The messages described drifting ice, calm seas, and cold air, nothing unusual but still worth acknowledging. The operators handled the information with the same calm professionalism they brought to every task. Even in these peaceful hours, the quiet rhythm of communication carried the ship's connection to the wider ocean. Above them on the bridge, officers reviewed each transmitted message with silent attention. Ice reports were familiar during the season, but the calmness of the sea made visibility deceiving. On quiet waters, floating ice could appear without warning, blending into the horizon. The officers made note of the updates, maintaining awareness without interrupting the steady confidence that guided the day's routine. This balance, alert yet untroubled, defined their work. Every now and then, allow your breathing to soften as you imagine those officers standing quietly on the bridge, observing the wide, calm sea while gentle signals of distant ice passed through their hands. Outside, passengers strolling along the decks had no sense of these distant reports. To them, the day remained serene. The air carried a crispness that hinted at colder regions ahead, but nothing felt threatening. The water remained smooth, and the sky remained clear. They continued to enjoy the gentle calm of the afternoon, unaware that the crew's awareness had shifted ever so slightly. In the chart room, navigational officers added each ice report to their ongoing logs. Pens moved slowly across large sheets of paper, marking positions, dates, and brief notes. These details formed a larger picture of the waters ahead, though the overall conditions still seemed safe. The calm weather offered no visual clues to the presence of ice, making the written messages the only reminders of what lay beyond the horizon. Meanwhile, the temperature continued its subtle drop. It wasn't dramatic enough for passengers to worry, but noticeable enough that the crew made quiet mental notes. The Northern Ocean carried its own kind of silence, one that felt deeper and more still as the air cooled. It was the sort of change that experienced sailors recognized, though it didn't yet suggest anything out of the ordinary. Far below deck, the ship's workers felt the cooling atmosphere as well. The warm engine rooms remained unaffected, but areas closer to the hull held a sharper chill. Crew members moving through these spaces noticed the temperature shifts without concern, understanding that the ship was gradually entering colder waters. It was simply part of the voyage, a natural transition that required observation but not alarm. If your mind begins to drift, let it drift the way the subtle chill drifted through the ship, softly, quietly, without urgency. That afternoon, another message arrived from a nearby vessel, noting a larger concentration of ice in the distance. The wireless operators forwarded it promptly, and the officers acknowledged it with calm awareness. These messages formed a pattern, a gentle whisper from the ocean indicating that the region ahead held more ice than usual. Still, visibility remained clear, and the ship's course continued steadily westward. Passengers inside the lounges remained completely unaware of the growing file of ice reports. They continued reading, speaking softly, and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere shaped by the calm weather. The details of navigation were left to the crew, and the trust between passengers and officers created a sense of ease that carried through the day. The ocean itself showed no signs of danger. Its stillness made it look almost serene, an unbroken sheet stretching toward the fading horizon. This lack of disturbance created both comfort and caution, comfort for those who walked the decks, and caution for those who understood the ocean's quiet complexities. As the day continued, the officers exchanged brief notes regarding the small but growing list of ice reports. Their conversations were short, measured, and calm. No one felt alarmed. They simply treated the messages as reminders to remain attentive. The ship's routine continued without interruption, shaped by steady confidence and quiet vigilance. Below the bridge, the calm weather allowed lookouts to perform their duties with ease. They scanned the horizon from their high posts, the cold wind brushing against their faces. The sea appeared peaceful, its surface reflecting the pale light of the sky. No ice was visible yet, but the lookouts knew their role was vital, especially as the ship entered colder regions. Throughout the ship, life continued as usual. Passengers enjoyed their peaceful routines while the crew balanced calm movement with quiet attention to detail. The subtle warnings drifting through the Marconi room formed a gentle backdrop to an otherwise serene day, soft signals that nature was shifting in ways only the attentive could sense. And as the afternoon slowly began its descent toward evening, the Titanic moved forward through calm waters, carrying both peace and awareness into the final hours before night arrived. As the Titanic continued its westward course, another wireless message came through, this time noting ice spotted along a slightly different path. The operators recorded it with their usual precision, passing it along to the officers. These updates accumulated slowly, forming a quiet pattern rather than a sudden alarm. The officers maintained their composure, understanding that information like this was part of any northern voyage. The calm weather made everything feel less urgent, even though the details mattered. In the Marconi room, the operators kept their pace steady, exchanging messages in both directions. Their space was small, filled with the soft glow of equipment and the rhythmic tapping of telegraph keys. Each signal carried information across distances that the human eye could never reach. The workers remained focused, fully aware that their role supported the ship's safety even during peaceful hours. Every now and then, imagine the faint clicking of those keys, delicate and steady, echoing through the ship like a quiet thread of awareness. High above the main decks, the lookouts remained attentive, their eyes scanning the horizon as the temperature continued to drop. They felt the cold more sharply than most, exposed to the northern wind as the ship moved through still waters. The clarity of the atmosphere helped them, offering an unobstructed view in every direction. Nothing unusual appeared, just an unbroken line of pale sky meeting a calm ocean. Down on the bridge, the officers reviewed their charts again in the warm glow of lanterns and instrument panels. The reports formed a pattern, scattered patches of ice noted by various ships, some closer, some further away. The officers discussed their course briefly, keeping their voices low, their tone steady. Nothing suggested immediate danger, but awareness remained essential. Calm water could hide distant ice until it was very near. Inside the ship, passengers remained comfortable and unaware of these subtle exchanges. The lounges carried soft conversations, the dining saloons filled with calm activity, and the promenade continued to draw people seeking fresh air. The atmosphere remained peaceful, shaped by the sense that the day held no complications. And in truth, for them, it didn't. In third-class areas, families still enjoyed moments of rest. Children finished quiet games, adults shared stories, and the gentle vibration of the ship gave everyone a sense of steady reassurance. These passengers, too, had no idea of the ice messages passing through the ship's communication systems. Their world remained simple and calm. The officers, however, took note of the changing temperature. The crisp air suggested they were entering colder waters, and the reports reinforced this shift. Even without visual confirmation, the air itself felt like a quiet signal, a reminder that conditions could change quickly in these northern regions. Still, the sea remained peaceful, and visibility remained strong. If your breathing feels slower now, let that ease continue. The ship's quiet movement mirrors the steady rhythm of the story. Far below, the crew sensed the temperature drop in small but noticeable ways. Metal surfaces felt cooler to the touch, and certain lower corridors carried a faint chill that hadn't been present earlier in the day. These subtle changes were familiar to experienced sailors, quiet nudges from the environment rather than warnings. In the chart room, the officers added the latest message to their records and made a mental note of potential adjustments for later. For now, their course remained unchanged. They trusted the ship, the weather, and their own composure. There was no reason to disrupt the peaceful flow of the day. Evening approached slowly, stretching shadows across the decks and tinting the sky with subtle shades of pale gold and cool grey. The calm sea reflected these colours, creating a tranquil setting that soothed anyone who stepped outside. It was the kind of atmosphere that made ice seem impossibly distant, even as reports quietly suggested otherwise. The Marconi operators continued their work as the light faded, the glow of their instruments becoming more pronounced. Their tasks did not pause with changing daylight. Messages continued to flow, forming a steady current of information passing unseen through the air. As the ship moved gently forward, the officers remained watchful, aware of the messages collected throughout the day, yet confident in the ship's capabilities and the clarity of the night ahead. The subtle warnings remained just that, subtle. No sense of urgency disturbed the calm. And as twilight began to settle over the ship, the Titanic traveled deeper into the northern region where calmness and hidden ice often existed side by side, carrying both peace and caution into the approaching night. As the afternoon drifted slowly toward evening, the light over the Titanic began to soften into warm gold. This change felt almost like a gentle exhale from the sky, easing the day into a quieter, calmer phase. The metal railings glimmered faintly, the windows caught reflections of fading sunlight, and the wooden decks glowed with a subtle warmth. Passengers noticed the shift without speaking of it, the kind of natural transition that simply wrapped itself around everyone on board. The sun hung lower on the horizon, painting the ocean with delicate streaks of amber and pale rose. The sea remained smooth, its surface reflecting the sky's colors like a brushed canvas. Those walking on the promenade slowed their pace, drawn to the beauty unfolding before them. The air carried a gentle chill, but it only added to the sense of clarity and quietness settling over the ship. Inside the lounges, the soft evening light filtered through tall windows, creating gentle shadows across the floor. Lamps had not yet been fully lit, allowing natural light to linger in the room. Passengers rested in deep chairs, reading slower now, their eyes lifting occasionally to watch the changing sky. The quiet murmur of conversation blended with the distant hum of the engines, creating an atmosphere of peaceful transition. Every couple of minutes, let your shoulders loosen as you imagine that soft fading light, calm, unhurried, settling across the ship like a warm blanket. On the open decks, passengers paused at the railings to watch the horizon shift in color. Some rested their hands on the smooth metal bars, feeling the coolness of the evening air settle gently onto their skin. The ocean stretched endlessly, holding onto the last glimmers of daylight as though reluctant to let them go. A stillness hung in the air, deep but comforting. Crew members moving along the upper decks completed their tasks with quiet efficiency. They checked equipment, observed the sky, and prepared for the coming night, their steps steady and deliberate. Even these routine movements seemed slower and more deliberate as the day softened into evening. The calm weather made the work feel lighter, though each task still held its importance. In the enclosed promenades, where windows shielded passengers from the chill, people gathered in small groups to enjoy the view without braving the cold. Their silhouettes were framed by golden light, their voices soft and slowed by the peaceful environment. The gentle rocking of the ship added to the tranquility, creating a rhythm that matched the fading day. Further inside the ship, hallways glowed with muted reflections from the windows. The shapes of railings and decorative details softened in the warm light, giving every surface a calmer, gentle appearance. The ship felt quieter, as though preparing for rest even before the night had fully arrived. If your breathing grows softer as you picture these spaces, let that ease settle naturally. The evening aboard the Titanic mirrored the slow descent into calmness. In the writing rooms, passengers finishing letters paused often to admire the changing sky. Their pens moved a little slower, their thoughts drifting between memories, hopes, and the soft beauty outside. The light in these rooms created an atmosphere that encouraged reflection, giving each person a quiet moment alone with their thoughts. On the aft deck, a few travelers gathered to watch the ship's long wake shimmer behind them. In the fading sun, the white water glowed softly before blending back into the darkening sea. The sight gave passengers a sense of perspective, the vastness of the ocean, the scale of the ship, the quiet distance from their homes. The temperature continued to dip as the evening progressed, bringing a crispness to the air that hinted at the northern region ahead. Passengers pulled coats closer around their shoulders, but the cold didn't deter them. Many found the combination of cool air and soft light soothing, a perfect complement to the calm sea surrounding the ship. Inside the smoking rooms, described here strictly as part of historical setting, conversations became slower and more thoughtful. Passengers spoke softly, reflecting on their travels or the beauty of the evening sky. Their surroundings glowed with deep warm tones as lanterns cast gentle light across polished wood surfaces, enhancing the sense of quiet relaxation. Meanwhile, children on the decks grew quieter as the day dimmed. Their playful energy softened into curious observation as they watched the sky transition into evening. Their parents guided them back inside one by one, preparing for the calm routines of night as the ship moved steadily forward. Throughout the ship, the soft glow of evening spread into every corner, easing passengers into a slower rhythm. The colors of the day faded with gentle intention, making room for the deeper stillness of the approaching night. And as the sun continued its descent, the Titanic sailed on beneath a sky growing more serene by the minute, wrapped in the final, peaceful light of another calm day at sea. As the evening deepened, lamps across the ship began to glow with gentle warmth. Stewards moved quietly through the corridors, lighting fixtures and adjusting curtains, allowing the transition from daylight to evening to unfold smoothly. Their movements were calm and unhurried, almost blending into the softened hush that settled over the ship. With each light that flickered to life, the interiors took on a warmer, cozier tone that encouraged restfulness. On the forward decks, a few passengers lingered to witness the last rays of the sun slip beneath the horizon. The sky shifted through soft layers of pale orange, muted lavender, and cool blue. The transformation felt slow and deliberate, as though the day was bowing gracefully to the night. The passengers soaking in the moment spoke little, choosing instead to embrace the quiet that wrapped itself around the ship. Every so often, imagine that soft hush, just the ocean, the wind, and the fading light, guiding your thoughts gently downward. Inside the grand saloon, the atmosphere grew even more relaxed. The warm glow of lamps illuminated polished surfaces and soft fabrics, creating a comforting ambience that felt almost timeless. Conversations became slower, voices lowered, and guests allowed themselves to sink into deeper levels of calm. The gentle clinking of cutlery or distant footsteps blended seamlessly with the soft vibrations of the engines, forming a peaceful symphony of evening sounds. The ship's musicians tuned their instruments quietly, preparing to play familiar pieces that carried through the lounges like warm currents of sound. Their melodies drifted softly across rooms, enhancing the gentle shift into night. The music wasn't loud or dramatic. It simply flowed, offering a soothing backdrop for those seeking comfort before retiring to their cabins. In the enclosed promenades, passengers gathered around the windows to watch the sky take its final color for the day. Some wrapped blankets around their shoulders, savoring the cool air and the calmness of the sea. The ship seemed to glide even more smoothly as darkness approached, its motion barely perceptible except for the subtle, steady sway beneath their feet. Crew members on duty shared quiet nods as they passed one another in the hallways. Their routines did not change with the evening, but the atmosphere did. There was a softness in the air, a sense that the night ahead would be peaceful and uneventful. Their professionalism guided every step, yet even they felt the calming influence of the fading light. If you feel your mind softening with this scene, let it match the gentle pace of these evening routines. Across the ship, the reflections from the lamps shimmered on polished brass and varnished wood, creating subtle patterns that shifted with each movement of the vessel. These glimmers of warm light added a sense of quiet elegance to even the simplest spaces, reminding passengers of the care that had gone into the ship's design. In the reading rooms, a few passengers remained seated with books open but barely read. The soft atmosphere made concentration optional. Many found their eyes drifting above the pages, losing themselves in the quiet environment rather than the lines of text. The warm air, the gentle light, and the faint murmurs around them blurred into a soothing haze. Farther below, the crew responsible for maintaining the ship's generators noted the steady electrical output with satisfaction. The systems ran smoothly, powering every lamp, every device, and every essential function needed for the night. Their careful attention ensured that passengers experienced a seamless transition from day to evening without ever noticing the work behind it. As the last traces of sunlight vanished, the Titanic settled fully into its nighttime rhythm. The ocean darkened into a calm, expansive mirror, reflecting only faint hints of the sky. The ship's lights glowed softly across the water, creating the appearance of a quiet floating town drifting through the stillness of the northern sea. And in this gentle, glowing calm, the evening wrapped around the Titanic like a soft embrace, guiding passengers and crew alike into the restful quiet of the approaching night. As evening settled more deeply over the ship, a sharper chill began to drift through the northern air. It didn't arrive suddenly or dramatically. Instead, it approached in gentle waves, the kind that brushed quietly against skin and fabric before sinking into the atmosphere around the passengers. Those who stepped onto the open decks felt it first, a crispness that hinted at colder waters ahead, bringing with it a subtle shift in the mood of the night. The breeze carried a faint sting, the kind that makes people instinctively pull their coats a little tighter. Yet the cold didn't feel harsh. It felt clean, refreshing, a sign of the ship's gradual approach into northern latitudes. The sea, still calm and steady, reflected the deepening colors of the sky as the air embraced this cooler tone. Passengers who had grown used to the warmth of the day could sense the difference immediately, though it brought no discomfort, only awareness. Inside the enclosed promenades, people watched the windows fog slightly around the edges, the coolness creating delicate patterns on the glass. Conversations grew softer as passengers observed the quiet beauty of the night unfolding outside. The ship's gentle sway added to the calmness, giving everyone a sense of being carried smoothly through a cold but peaceful landscape. Every couple of minutes, let the coolness in this scene help your thoughts slow, like a quiet breath drawn in under a crisp evening sky. On the open decks, only the most curious or reflective passengers remained outside for long. They stood near the railings, watching their breath turn into faint white puffs before drifting away on the wind. The ocean surface seemed darker now, almost velvety, as the last traces of daylight disappeared. The ship's lights cast soft reflections onto the water, stretching into thin, wavering shapes that shimmered with each small ripple. Crew members noticed the colder wind as well, adjusting their uniforms and moving with steady focus. They recognized the significance of such changes, not in a dramatic sense, but in the quiet understanding shared by sailors familiar with northern waters. The air whispered of regions where drifting ice often traveled unseen, though nothing yet suggested danger. It was simply a signal to remain alert. Farther inside, the lounges provided a warm contrast to the growing chill outside. Passengers who entered from the decks brought the cold air with them in faint bursts, soon replaced by the soft glow of lamps and the comfortable warmth of enclosed spaces. These transitions, from cold to warm, from dark sky to cozy interior, deepened the sense of contrast that made the evening feel more serene. In the reading rooms, a few travelers lifted their eyes from their books as they sensed the temperature shift. The windows revealed a darker horizon now, marked by the subtle reflection of the ship's lights on the water. The crispness of the air, even through the glass, created a gentle reminder that they were far from land, surrounded by the vast quietness of the Northern Ocean. If your breathing becomes slower as you imagine that cold, open sea, let the sensation guide you gently towards stillness. In the lower decks, passengers noticed the change in temperature more subtly. The air grew cooler near the outer walls, where the chill seeped in through the metal hull. Families adjusted blankets, children huddled closer to their parents, and conversations took on a more restful tone. The cold didn't unsettle them, it simply became another part of the journey, a natural shift carried by the northern wind. Up on the forward-well deck, a few adventurous passengers lingered a little longer, embracing the brisk air with quiet fascination. The clear night allowed stars to emerge in faint clusters above the ship, and the combination of freezing wind and open sky created a feeling of vastness, one that stretched from the deck rails all the way into the distant horizon. And throughout the Titanic, this gentle chill, a quiet traveler of the northern seas, wrapped itself around the ship, blending into the soft glow of lamps and the calm rhythm of the water below, signaling a subtle but undeniable change in the night. As the chill continued to settle, the atmosphere across the ship deepened into an even quieter calm. The cold air created a kind of stillness that wrapped around passengers and crew alike, encouraging everyone to slow down just a little more. The night no longer felt like an extension of the afternoon. It had taken on its own character, cooler, sharper, and more serene. This shift gently shaped the final hours before darkness fully claimed the horizon. On the bridge, officers monitored the conditions with their usual steady focus. They noted the temperature drop, the calmness of the sea, and the clear visibility stretching outward in every direction. The lack of wind made the cold feel even more pronounced, settling into the vast open space around the ship. Yet nothing seemed alarming. The officers simply remained observant, aware that colder air often meant drifting ice could be nearer than expected. Every couple of minutes, imagine that crisp wind brushing past the officers as they stood watch, a quiet reminder of the northern sea's distant mysteries. On the open decks, passengers who lingered found the cold both invigorating and humbling. They wrapped their coats tighter and kept their hands in pockets, but the view was too beautiful to ignore. The night sky expanded overhead in deepening shades of blue, and stars began to appear with clarity rarely seen from land. The combination of cold air and distant starlight created a tranquil environment, almost meditative in its simplicity. Inside the enclosed promenades, the contrast between cold air outside and warm light inside created a cozy sense of refuge. Windows glowed softly from interior lamps, and passengers watching from within felt as though they were observing the night through a gentle barrier. The world outside seemed vast and quiet, while the world inside felt sheltered and warm. In the crew corridors, workers preparing for night duty felt the subtle chill through the walls as well. They adjusted clothing layers, exchanged brief updates, and continued their tasks with calm professionalism. For many of them, the cold was a familiar companion, one of the countless details that came with working on northern routes. Far below deck, even the machinery seemed to respond to the temperature shift. Metal carried the cold differently, and workers noticed how tools and surfaces felt cooler to the touch. It did not interfere with their duties, but it served as a quiet reminder of the environment outside, a sign that the ship was moving deeper into colder waters. In the passenger cabins, the growing chill encouraged earlier rest. Some travelers arranged extra blankets, others quietly prepared for sleep, and many simply enjoyed the comfort of a warm room after standing briefly in the cold evening air. The slow rhythm of nighttime preparations blended naturally with the coolness drifting through the ship. If your mind feels calmer as the evening's chill deepens in the scene, let that feeling settle. The cold served not as a warning, but as a peaceful reminder of the ship's northern journey. On the aft deck, a few passengers admired the shimmering trail left by the ship's movement. The wake appeared darker now, its white foam less visible under the slowly fading light. The cold air sharpened the senses, allowing passengers to notice distant sounds more clearly: the soft rush of water, the faint hum of engines, the quiet rattle of metal railings. The colder atmosphere also heightened the stillness of the sea. The water lay smooth and undisturbed, stretching outward like a dark mirror. Without wind to ripple its surface, the ocean felt eerily calm, almost too calm, as though holding its breath beneath the vast northern sky. Yet to passengers, this stillness felt peaceful rather than unsettling. Inside the lounges, warm lamps, soft upholstery, and gentle conversations provided a comforting contrast to the cold outside. People lingering there felt insulated from the deeper chill, embracing the warmth the way one might settle near a quiet fire. These rooms became havens where the cold could be observed without being felt. As the night progressed, the combination of calm sea, cold air, and steady ship created a sense of quiet anticipation, not of danger or drama, but of the natural progression of a long journey. The Titanic moved forward with steady confidence, cutting through waters that held their own silent mysteries. And throughout the ship, the northern chill remained a soft companion, drifting around railings, brushing against windows, and settling lightly into the night as the Titanic continued toward the darker hours ahead. As the evening deepened and the sky shifted fully into its cooler tones, the Titanic began slipping gently into its nighttime routine. This transition didn't happen all at once. It unfolded gradually, shaped by countless small actions carried out across the ship. Stewards made their rounds, lamps warmed into gentle glows, and footsteps softened in the hallways. The ship seemed to exhale into the night, settling into a slower, quieter rhythm that brought a sense of peaceful continuity to those on board. In the corridors, the lighting dimmed slightly to match the calmer pace of the evening. Soft reflections shimmered along polished brass fixtures, and the carpets absorbed each step with a muted hush. Crew members moved with calm efficiency, ensuring each section transitioned smoothly into night mode. Their work was precise but unhurried, as though following a ritual practiced countless times before. Inside the passenger cabins, people prepared for rest in quiet, familiar ways. Some changed into evening clothes for late meals, while others slipped into comfortable attire and arranged their belongings for the night. The soft glow of cabin lamps made these small rituals feel even more soothing, wrapping the rooms in a cozy warmth that contrasted with the cold air outside. Every couple of minutes, imagine this gentle shift, small routines, warm lights, and the steady hum beneath the floor guiding everything into a restful pace. In the galleys, the kitchen staff finished their evening tasks with organized precision. Pots were cleaned, surfaces wiped, and utensils arranged neatly for the next day. The warm smell of food slowly faded as the last of the preparations ended, replaced by the faint scent of soap and metal. Even here, where daytime activity was lively and busy, the atmosphere softened into a calm, orderly rhythm. Along the promenades, stewards checked that doors were secured and windows properly fastened against the growing cold. The gentle clicking of latches echoed faintly through the quiet spaces, blending with the soft hum of the ship's engines. These small sounds, barely noticeable during the day, became part of the ship's nighttime symphony. In the lounges, lamps brightened to their evening settings, casting warm circles of light across tables and armchairs. Passengers who chose to remain awake drifted into these spaces, seeking calm conversation or a few final moments of reflection before bed. The calmness of the environment shaped their voices into gentle tones, almost whispers, blending seamlessly into the soft background. Far below the passenger decks, the rhythm of night routines took on a different shape. Crew members who worked in the ship's mechanical areas checked gauges, valves, and machinery with quiet discipline. Their world remained warm and rhythmic, filled with steady vibrations and the constant pulse of engines performing exactly as intended. These checks ensured the ship continued to glide smoothly through the calm sea. In the mailroom, workers organized bags and documents, securing everything neatly for the night. Though unseen by most passengers, these tasks helped maintain the order that defined the ship's daily operations. The rustling of paper and the soft thud of parcels shifting into place added tiny details to the ship's hidden soundscape. If your mind begins to drift with these quiet routines, allow it to drift naturally. The ship's steady rhythm is meant to carry you into softer thoughts. Near the staircases, stewards nodded quietly to one another as they completed their evening rounds. Their steps were light, their voices low, and their movements carried a sense of practiced calm. They adjusted curtains, checked railings, and ensured that common areas remained tidy for anyone who wandered through during the night. On the bridge, officers transitioned into the evening watch. They reviewed instruments, confirmed the ship's heading, and adjusted notes in their logs. The visibility was still clear, and the sea remained calm. Their work continued with the same composed focus, shaped by experience and the quiet sense of responsibility that came with overseeing the ship through the night. In the enclosed promenades, a few passengers lingered to enjoy the peaceful view outside. The windows framed the darkening ocean like a series of soft, moving paintings. The distant horizon had disappeared into the night, replaced by faint glimmers of starlight and the occasional flicker of the ship's reflection on the calm water. As the night routine continued, children were gently guided back to their cabins. Their earlier excitement faded into quieter tones, softened by the calm atmosphere around them. Parents wrapped them in warm blankets, preparing them for sleep as the ship rocked lightly beneath the dark sky. Throughout these moments, the Titanic settled deeper into its nightly rhythm, calm, orderly, and carried forward by countless small preparations happening quietly across every deck. And with each passing minute, the ship drifted further into the peaceful embrace of the northern night, guided by its routines and the gentle confidence of a crew that knew exactly how to shape the day into evening. As the night grew deeper, the ship's routines became more pronounced, settling into a soft, predictable cadence. Crew members in the service areas completed their final checks, making sure every door, corridor, and common space was ready for the quiet hours ahead. The atmosphere carried a sense of calm readiness, as if the ship itself understood the importance of winding down gently, with everything in its proper place. The world outside was dark and still, but inside, a warm glow held the ship together in peaceful harmony. In the wireless room, the operators continued their work with quiet concentration. Messages still arrived from distant ships, though at a slower pace than earlier in the day. The tapping of telegraph keys formed a faint, steady rhythm, echoing softly through the small compartment. Their responsibilities remained constant, even as the rest of the ship moved into quiet rest. These operators connected the Titanic with distant points across the ocean, their signals drifting invisibly through the cold night air. Every couple of minutes, picture that hidden room, the gentle clicking, the dim lamps, and the sense of stillness surrounding the operators as they worked. Farther inside the ship, the stewards prepared late-night amenities for passengers who requested them. A tray here, an extra blanket there, warm drinks delivered quietly to cabins where lights still glowed. Their movements were soft and unobtrusive, guided by the desire to maintain the tranquility that had settled over the ship. Even the creaking of floorboards seemed subdued, merging into the hush that filled the corridors. In the smoking rooms, a few passengers lingered beneath the gentle glow of the lamps. Their conversations drifted into slower rhythms, often pausing to appreciate the comforting stillness of the night. They leaned back in deep chairs, letting the warm lighting ease their minds as the sea moved quietly beneath the hull. These spaces, filled with polished wood and softened voices, felt like small islands of calm sheltered from the cold outside. On the bridge, the night watch maintained their steady observations. The ship's heading was checked and confirmed, the instruments noted with precision, and the horizon scanned regularly. Even though visibility appeared good and the sea remained calm, their vigilance continued without break. The night held its own kind of silence, vast, open, and heavy, and the officers carried that awareness with practiced focus. In the lower corridors reserved for crew movement, the usual daytime activity had faded into a thin, steady trickle. Only a few workers passed through at a time, completing tasks that kept the ship running smoothly. Their quiet footsteps became part of the ship's nocturnal soundtrack, soft, sparse, and steady, marking the persistence of duty even in the calmest hours. If your breath slows to match their rhythm, let it settle naturally. The ship's routine invites rest, even in its busiest unseen rooms. In the storage areas, workers completed final inventory checks, ensuring that supplies remained secure for the night. Boxes, tools, and provisions were carefully organized and tied down, preventing any potential movement as the ship traveled through the quiet northern waters. These small acts of maintenance helped maintain the stability and order that defined the Titanic's nighttime operations. The machinery spaces continued to hum with their steady, ever-present vibration. Nothing about their rhythm changed with nightfall. The engineers monitored gauges and equipment just as they did during the day, their work illuminated by warm yellow lamps. Despite the intensity of the environment, there was a strange kind of calmness in these low areas, a consistent, dependable heartbeat that carried through the entire ship. Near the stairwells, lanterns glowed softly, guiding the last few passengers making their way back to their cabins. The gentle clink of handrails and the soft rustle of clothing were the only sounds in these spaces. Some travelers paused for a moment, observing the quiet beauty of the ship at night before disappearing into their rooms to rest. As the hour grew later, more doors clicked shut, and the hallways became truly still. The light remained warm but dim, creating an environment that invited sleep. The ship, vast as it was, now felt small and intimate, a floating home drifting through the chilled northern night. And throughout this final phase of night preparations, the Titanic settled into a deep, peaceful rhythm, ready to carry passengers and crew into the quietest hours before midnight, wrapped in the calm confidence of routine and the gentle hum of the open sea. As the ship eased fully into night, passengers across every deck began settling into their quiet evening plans. The calm sea and gentle hum of the engines created a soothing backdrop that shaped every movement, every conversation, and every routine. People drifted toward their cabins or lingered in softly lit spaces, guided by the natural slowing of the world around them. The night didn't push anyone into rest. It simply invited them, wrapping the ship in a gentle atmosphere perfect for winding down. In the first-class corridors, the warm glow of lamps reflected off polished surfaces, creating a soft, golden hush. Passengers walked leisurely toward their rooms, speaking in low tones that matched the peacefulness of the hour. Some carried books tucked under their arms. Others paused to exchange brief, gentle words before parting for the evening. The overall mood was one of comfort, an unhurried drift into the final moments of the day. In the lounges, the music softened into slower, gentler melodies. A few passengers remained seated near the musicians, their expressions relaxed as the notes floated softly through the air. The sound was neither loud nor insistent. It simply existed, like a calm whisper shaping the mood of the room. People who listened often leaned back in their chairs, allowing the music to settle over them like a warm blanket. Every couple of minutes, imagine that soft music, the gentle sway of the ship, and the quiet murmur of relaxed voices forming a kind of nighttime lullaby. On the promenade, some travelers chose to enjoy a final walk before retiring. The cold night air brushed against their faces, reminding them of the northern waters the ship was entering. They bundled their coats a little tighter, but the chill felt refreshing rather than uncomfortable. The dark sea, stretching endlessly outward, gave them a sense of solitude and clarity that could only be found in such open spaces. Inside the reading rooms, passengers settled into deep chairs with books held loosely in their hands. Some read a few pages before their eyes grew heavy, while others simply held their place in the book and gazed quietly out the window. The soft lighting and muted colors of the room made it easy to drift between reading and resting, letting thoughts flow gently in whichever direction the evening carried them. In the smoking rooms, passengers spoke in low, reflective tones. Their conversations meandered, touching on memories, travels, and observations about the calmness of the sea. The atmosphere felt subdued but content, warmed by the glow of lamps and the polished wooden interiors. Even those who normally spoke with energy lowered their voices naturally, as if adapting to the ship's quiet nighttime pulse. Farther down in the second-class areas, passengers enjoyed simple routines of their own. Some finished letters to send the next morning, while others prepared their children for bed. These families moved calmly, grateful for the warmth of their cabins after spending time on the cold decks. The steady, gentle motion of the ship lulled many children into early sleep. If your thoughts begin to soften while imagining these scenes, let them soften naturally. The quiet nighttime routines encourage the same gentle drift. In the third-class common rooms, people shared quiet moments together. Laughter had grown softer, conversations slower and more peaceful. Some played simple games, others rested after a long day, and a few leaned back against benches with their eyes closed. Many had endured long and difficult travels before reaching the ship, and the calm nighttime atmosphere felt like a welcome gift, a moment to breathe deeply and rest without worry. Throughout the Titanic, the sense of nighttime calm settled evenly across every level. Doors closed gently, lights dimmed, and voices softened. The ship felt both large and small at the same time, vast in its structure, but intimate in the way the night wrapped around it. Passengers who preferred solitude found quiet spots near stairwells or beside windows, enjoying a few minutes alone before sleep. These still corners allowed them to take in the cool air or observe the soft glow of the lamps reflecting across metal and wood. The gentle rocking of the ship kept them company, a slow rhythm as steady as breathing. And across all these spaces, from the grand salons to the modest cabins, nighttime routines continued in soothing harmony, each passenger finding their own quiet way to bring the day to a peaceful close. As the ship moved deeper into the night, the hallways grew quieter, filled only with the faint hum of engines and the occasional soft closing of a cabin door. Passengers inside their rooms began arranging their space for sleep, placing shoes neatly by the bed, folding clothes, and adjusting the warm blankets that shielded them from the northern chill. The dim light from small lamps created a gentle glow, turning each cabin into a small sanctuary floating above the dark ocean. In first-class staterooms, Some passengers prepared for rest by writing a final line in their journals or reviewing the events of the day. Their rooms carried a soft, elegant atmosphere that made settling in feel like drifting into a quieter world. The calm sea outside enhanced the sense of stillness, encouraging them to breathe slowly and let the softness of the night guide their thoughts. In second-class cabins, families shared final conversations in hushed tones, making sure children were comfortable before turning down the lamps. The steady vibration of the ship beneath the floor acted like a natural lullaby, helping little ones fall asleep quickly. Adults sat for a moment afterward, watching their children rest peacefully before allowing themselves to unwind. Every couple of minutes, imagine that gentle vibration under the floorboards, a slow, steady rhythm that encourages the mind to loosen and drift. Farther down in third class, the atmosphere carried a warm sense of togetherness. Passengers who had traveled far before boarding the ship felt comfort in the simple routines of preparing for sleep. Some double-checked their belongings, others shared quiet stories, and a few sank into their bunks with long, relieved breaths. These modest cabins held a calm presence, shaped by the exhaustion of long journeys and the comfort of a warm room. In the public spaces still open for late hours, only a few passengers remained. They sat near windows or along the edges of quiet rooms, enjoying the last minutes of wakefulness. The soft lighting and empty seats created a peaceful environment where people could linger without disturbance. Their reflections appeared faintly in the glass, blending softly with the night outside. On the promenade decks, the cold air discouraged long stays, but a handful of passengers enjoyed a final moment under the stars. The sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with clusters of faint lights shimmering through the northern chill. The quietness of the sea made the world feel larger, and yet strangely intimate, as though the night had wrapped itself around the ship alone. Below deck, the crew completed their final evening rounds for the passenger areas. They checked locks, turned down lamps, and ensured that all common spaces were ready for the quieter hours ahead. Their steps were soft and efficient, their presence subtle, allowing passengers to rest without interruption. In the writing rooms, a few letters remained unfinished on desks, left by travelers who had grown too tired to continue. The lamps cast gentle light across ink bottles, stationery, and small personal belongings, forming still life scenes that captured the quiet intimacy of nighttime aboard the Titanic. These objects waited silently for the morning, untouched until the ship awoke again. If your mind begins to drift like these quiet rooms, let the calmness deepen naturally. The night aboard the ship welcomed rest in its own gentle way. Across the lounges, chairs sat empty now, their cushions still faintly warm from earlier use. Sheet music remained on stands, instruments resting silently nearby. The last echo of evening melodies lingered in the air, fading slowly into the soft hum of the ship and the gentle whisper of distant water against the hull. In the narrow corridors of crew accommodations, workers preparing to rest exchanged quiet nods before retreating to their bunks. Their routines mirrored those of the passengers, simple, methodical steps to settle themselves after a long day's work. The spaces were modest, but the calmness of the night made them feel comforting. As the hour approached deeper darkness, most of the ship had grown still. Even the occasional footsteps became rare. The Titanic drifted forward through the quiet northern sea, carrying hundreds of passengers now settling into rest, unaware of how close they were to the final calm hours before the world shifted. And wrapped in the hush of late evening, the ship continued its steady journey, guided by gentle vibrations, soft lamplight, and the peaceful nighttime plans of passengers settling into sleep. As the final traces of daylight slipped away, the Titanic entered a moment suspended between evening and full darkness, a gentle threshold where everything seemed to quiet itself even further. The ship's lights glowed softly against the encroaching night, forming warm halos along the decks and casting reflections that wavered gently across the surface of the calm sea. The world around the ship grew darker with each passing minute, yet nothing about the moment felt rushed. Instead, it unfolded like a long, peaceful sigh at the end of a calm day. On the open decks, the last passengers lingering outside watched as the horizon dissolved into a soft blur of deep blue and black. The cold air sharpened slightly, carrying the crisp scent of northern waters. These final moments of twilight held a quiet beauty, an atmosphere that made even the smallest details feel significant. The railings gleamed faintly, the lamps flickered softly, and the distant sea stretched outward like a darkened mirror. Inside the ship, the warm glow from the lights created a striking contrast to the deepening night outside. The hallways felt sheltered, almost cocoon-like, as passengers moved through them with slower steps. The softened lighting made every space feel gentler, encouraging everyone to settle their minds and prepare for rest. The Titanic, illuminated from within, felt like a floating lantern drifting through the stillness of the ocean. Every couple of minutes, imagine that soft warm light fading gradually into the cool darkness outside, two worlds meeting quietly along the edges of each window. In the lounges, only a handful of passengers remained, enjoying the last calm moments before retiring. The musicians had already packed away their instruments, leaving the room filled with nothing but faint echoes of earlier melodies. The furniture seemed to settle into stillness, chairs slightly angled as though waiting for the next day's conversations and quiet reflections. Further down the ship, in the writing rooms and reading spaces, the lamps cast narrow pools of light across desks and shelves. Those who lingered here often did so in silence, finishing a thought on paper or closing a book with a slow, deliberate motion. The quietness of the rooms made even the smallest actions feel gentle, as though sound itself had softened. On the bridge, officers observed the calm sea with steady concentration. The horizon had disappeared into the night, replaced by darkness so complete it almost felt like an extension of the air itself. The sea remained still, the sky clear, and the coldness more pronounced. Yet nothing appeared threatening. The officers' focus was calm, shaped by experience and by the peaceful conditions that surrounded the ship. Along the enclosed promenades, passengers walked slowly, drawn to the glow of the lamps inside and the mysterious darkness outside. They traced the length of the corridor, listening to the quiet creak of the ship adjusting to the cold. Their reflections shimmered faintly in the glass as the sea beyond merged fully with the night. If your breathing deepens while imagining these soft transitions, let the calmness settle. The ship itself felt like it was inhaling the last moments of light before welcoming the full embrace of darkness. Inside the cabins, passengers prepared to close the day. The soft glow from bedside lamps illuminated small patterns on blankets, framed outlines of luggage, and cast quiet shadows on the walls. Many paused before extinguishing their lights, savoring the stillness of the evening, unaware of how significant these final peaceful minutes would become. In the crew quarters, the night shift prepared to take over, adjusting uniforms and reviewing notes before stepping into their roles. Their movements carried the same calm rhythm as the rest of the ship, practiced, composed, and shaped by the quiet confidence of routine. The night ahead felt steady, predictable, and uneventful. Throughout the ship, a collective calmness took hold. The lights glowed steadily, the engines hummed beneath the floors, and the ship sailed forward with unbroken smoothness. It was a night that felt still, clear, and gentle, a night when nothing seemed out of place. And as the last strands of twilight vanished completely, the Titanic drifted fully into darkness, carrying with it the quiet expectation of a peaceful night on the open sea. As the night deepened, the decks became almost completely empty. Only the faint outline of a few silhouettes remained, passengers who lingered for one last moment beneath the cold northern sky. They stood quietly, listening to the gentle rustle of wind moving along the ship's surface. The silence felt deeper now, stretching across the ocean like a calm, quiet veil. The Titanic continued forward through the stillness, its lights glowing softly like distant stars scattered across the water. Inside, the lounges had grown silent. Chairs were neatly arranged, books closed, and curtains drawn partially against the dark outside. The atmosphere carried a sense of completion, an acknowledgement that the day had passed gently into night. Those who passed through paused briefly, noticing how peaceful the spaces felt when empty. The ship's hum filled the silence in a soothing, rhythmic way. Every couple of minutes, imagine that soft hum, a steady companion beneath the quiet, guiding the ship onward without disturbance. In the corridors, the lamps glowed at their dimmest settings, casting soft warmth along the floors. Passengers moving toward their cabins walked slowly, their footsteps softened by thick carpets. Even the air felt still, as though the ship had entered a moment of complete rest. The softness of the lights and the silence of the hallways made the transition into night feel effortless. On the bridge, officers continued their steady watch. The vast darkness beyond the ship seemed endless, yet the calmness of the sea gave them reassurance. Their notes reflected routine observations, temperature, visibility, and the ship's exact heading. Their focus remained firm but untroubled, shaped by the peaceful conditions surrounding them. In the crew areas, workers finishing their shifts exchanged brief nods before disappearing into their bunks. The tired but content atmosphere reflected the smoothness of the day. The quietness of the night made their movements gentle and slow, allowing them to slip easily into rest after their duties were done. Below deck, the machinery maintained its familiar rhythm, steady, dependable, and calm. The engineers listened closely for any change in tone, but everything remained smooth. The consistent vibration spread upward through the ship's structure, a reminder of the powerful systems operating beneath the serene surface. If your thoughts feel softer now, let this gentle hum guide you further into stillness. In the writing rooms, the last lamps flickered as passengers extinguished their lights one by one. A final page turned, a final pen was capped, and the rooms returned to quiet. The faint scent of paper and ink lingered, holding a sense of stories paused until morning. These still spaces carried a muted elegance that suited the lateness of the hour. On the aft deck, the glow of the ship's lights reflected off the calm, dark ocean, creating long, wavering trails. Anyone who paused there felt the cool breeze brush across their face, carrying with it the deep tension of the northern night. Yet the view remained peaceful, a horizon swallowed in darkness, a sky filled with faint stars, and a ship moving steadily onward. By now, most of the Titanic slept. Cabins were quiet, lights were dimmed, and conversations had faded entirely. The ship drifted across the silent sea, wrapped in a calm so complete it felt almost unreal. It was a night of deep stillness, unbroken by wind or waves, a night that seemed to promise nothing but rest. And in these final moments before midnight, the Titanic glowed softly in the darkness, carrying hundreds of souls into the quietest phase of their journey, unaware of how close they were to history's turning point. As this story settles into its final moments, take a slow breath and allow the calmness to rest gently on your mind. Thank you for spending this quiet time listening to this soft retelling of the Titanic's final peaceful hours before the night fell. May the stillness of this journey bring you comfort, and may you drift into rest with ease.